YouTube, I'm your friendly neighborhood NMan64, and I'm bringing you another episode of Throwback Thursday's Pokemon FireRed Nuzlocke. We are now at the big gut check of the game, the Silph-Co. And I don't mean it specifically because of Team Rocket, it's because of the rival fight that's here. For some strange reason, the rival decided now would be the golden opportunity to fuck with us. So, yes, we are in full-on gut check mode, and we have to prepare the whole team for war. Now, honestly, I don't think I'm gonna do particularly well here because the Silph-Co rival fight is always not only just a major gut check, but it's always a problem. Like, no matter what I do, no matter what I fight, it's constantly a problem. Which is why I'm more or less just trying to do what I can to survive here more than just, you know, doing other things. And naturally, this Golbat has literally every single check to block me, this piece of shit bat. All pissy because Tabooze died earlier. Whatever. Alright, good job, the boulder. Your toughness, it makes this bat no match for you. But I fully expect this to be an absolute gut check for us, where it's pretty much going to determine if we will succeed or not, depending on the amount of Pokemon we lose here. And the last couple episodes ain't really been too kind to us. We did lose our Beaky Bay, and that is definitely sad. But we get the drill. We need to prepare ourselves, and the only way to prepare ourselves is to go straight into the heart of war, with the boulder doing everything he can in his power to destroy his enemies. Which does bring me to an interesting point that I did want to bring up specifically in this section of the run, assuming I have made it that far, and that being the fact that since we're now at the point where the run is pretty much guaranteed to keep going, I did want to actually do something to make sure not every single episode is going to be just, oh, you talking like this. I want to do some different things every now and then. So this time around, what I'm going to do while I am playing the game is I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while, and that's answer some Q&A questions. I do have a lot, and I used to answer them on my Facebook page, but I just lost track of time doing all sorts of things. So over the next few episodes, I'm going to be answering a bunch of anonymous questions that I have logged in over the last couple of years. So some of these questions might be dated, might have answers. Some of them are newer that I've gotten messages for and all that, and people want to talk to me about how I feel about something. And who am I to say no to them, these adorable people? So, with that in mind, the only time I'm really going to commentate on a battle is if something goes incredibly not my way. But in general, we're going to be focusing on the Q&A questions. So, without further ado, I have a couple here that I'm going to hopefully I'm going to be able to squeeze 3 or 4 questions in per episode, depending on the veracity of the question, but looking at this one, could be a problem. This is obviously, all these questions are anonymous, I'd like to point that out. So, as an anonymous question, someone asked me, what are my thoughts on Disney's rumored expansions for Disney World? Now, Disney has a bad reputation of pie-in-the-skying Disney World, being like, oh, we have all these great plans, and then they never come to fruition, and they never do anything. I don't want to say that that's like all Disney's good for these days, but they do have a very bad reputation of announcing things and then canceling them. Which is why I'm more keen to be like, okay, I see what you're trying to do, but honestly, I'm not a Universal guy, but according to Universal, at the very least, has a plan. They may not be rolling it out perfectly, but they have a plan. And that's the point. They have everything they need. They don't need to to just keep saying, "Oh, well, we plan to do this." No, they consistently do it. The Harry Potter world, they consistently do it. They now have the Super Mario universe. They have the Epic universe. They're building things at a rate that Disney should be able to, but they're just not doing it. You could have a multitude of reasons as to why that would be, but in my opinion, it's just the fact that Disney has more resources, but they also have more to focus on. So don't think me saying that is me justifying the fact that Disney has sort of dropped the ball on a lot of projects recently. So the reason I bring this up to start is that Disney has that bad reputation. And if you want to override said reputation, you have to really take the big strides. Now, I don't go to Disney every year. I go to Disney every 3 to 5 years. In fact, the next trip we're planning is for 2027. And because of that, I don't see Disney as much. So when I see it, I'm generally a happier person. Not because of like, oh, look, it's Disney. I just specifically see Disney, and in general, I'm just a happy person when I'm on vacation. I'm not the kind of asshole that has to nitpick every single aspect of the vacation. But I do have some little things that I keep in the back of my head for situations like, oh, well, that could have been better. And on this last Disney trip, I was able to go on a couple of rides that I had missed out on in 2019. I missed out on, unfortunately, the Splash Mountain reskin. But I will be able to talk about that or show it in 2027 when we go, but at least as we plan to go. But I did get to go on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, or Runaway Railway. You get the idea. And I missed that when I went in 2019 by like a couple of weeks. I went on Rise of the Resistance. I went on Tron. And all 3 rides were very good, in my opinion. You may have issue with the fact that Tron was only like a 60-second ride. And you may have issues with like the Mickey ride replacing the Great Movie ride. Again, justifiable reasons to like them. The reason why I bring these up is I think Disney is trending in the right direction. It's not just like, I don't know, well, I'll find out when I see the Splash Mountain reskin for myself. But I'm not going to sit there and immediately just throw shade at Disney just for existing. And they're actually doing a decent job at what they do. So no, I'm not just going to sit there and go, oh, Disney, you gotta do better. I'm not just going to sit there and tell that. But with that said, Disney does have that pretty bad reputation for botching rides, and Disney announced a lot that's going to be coming over the next, I'm going to have to assume, a decade. Because I don't think Disney's going to be able to get all of this stuff done immediately. So, we should start with the first thing that's been talked about is the Cars expansion for Frontierland. Basically, they're going to be changing Frontierland from, you know, all based on the Old West to being just based on, you know, the West in general. So, since Cars is a popular franchise, they're going to be removing the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer's Island to make room for some Cars attractions. Now, Disney does have the room for this, as they are expanding Magic Kingdom, and we'll get more on that in a little bit. But people are going ham on, like, you can't do this, that's destroying something that's great, that's fun. Like, the Rivers of America, I get. Every time I'm online for the Haunted Mansion, I constantly see the boat passing and everybody's waving, and I think that's awesome. Tom Sawyer's Island, on the other hand, I almost said I'm ashamed to say, but I will point out, I've been to Disney multiple times, but that's the first time I ever went to Tom Sawyer's Island, and it was mostly because it was something that I wanted to cross off my Disney bucket list, and it was empty. Like, they had a little restaurant that was supposed to be open, but it wasn't open. there was me, my mom, and like 6 other people. That's about it. There was nothing else on that island. There were more people looking to see what was on the island than there were people actually on the island. Now you may say, "Oh, well, that doesn't matter. It's still a classic thing." I get that, but like, there's no reason for you to sit there and go, "You can't change it because Tom Sawyer's Island is popular." I will be the first to tell you, no, it ain't. It is not popular. And people will sit there and go, "Oh, well, Cars isn't popular either." I'm like, yeah, it's not popular with you. But if you talk to kids, kids love Cars. They love Owen Wilson and Larry the Cable Guy's Cars. Don't ask me what their names are. I've seen Cars maybe like 2 or 3 times. Isn't the truck like Gator or something like that? I don't know. Anyway. Well, but the point I'm getting to is like, they're going to be replacing that with Cars. Like a couple of Cars attractions. I'm assuming they're just going to copy the layout from Disneyland, from Disney's California Adventures car rides. So maybe like one of the attractions, like a Cars ride. I thought they were going to be reskinning the Speedway with it, but apparently they're not. But again, I'm totally fine with that. I don't mind the Speedway, it's fun. Anyway, my thoughts on that? Good on Disney. They realize they have to up their game, and from the looks of what they have planned, they are blowing up. They are upping their game. You can't critique them for trying when you don't know exactly what's in their plans. Even if it is, I will tell you this, even if it is just a reskin. Oh my god, that did a lot of damage. Holy shit. Please, the boulder, please, the boulder, please, the boulder. Oh my god, thank you. Boulder. The boulder is such a goddamn tank. Thank you. But no, it's like... No, it's just, like I said, it's a freaking... You can't just complain when you don't know exactly what they have in store. Maybe it'll be reskinned, maybe it'll be entirely new rides. We don't know. But with that said, like I said, change is inevitable. You're gonna have to change at some point. And I, for one, am saying, okay, let's give it. I want to see what you're doing. The second change that was talked about for Magic Kingdom, which I alluded to earlier. Ooh, that's Hidden Power TM. Nice. I wonder where the person is that. I wonder where the person is that can tell you what your Pokemon's hidden power would be in this game. Most likely on the Sevi Islands with my luck. Yeah, the boulder is just not fast enough. Let's go 0. But the next expansion for Magic Kingdom, as far as we know, is going to be Villain's Land. Now, Villain's Land is an interesting in-concept idea. The idea is this is the not happily ever after. This is where all the bad guys get to have their own experiences and great endings. And I'm like, I'm actually curious about that because it's interesting. I looked at the villains on their roster, and it's mostly the big guns. So you have the Queen, Maleficent, Ursula, Dr. Facilier, Hades, Jafar, Captain Hook. Pretty much all of the Disney villains you would expect to be in something like this. So, I don't have an issue with that. I genuinely think that's a smart idea on Disney's part. The question I have is they've announced that there are going to be 2 rides there and then like a bunch of shopping stuff. Now, personally speaking, I'm more interested in the shopping stuff because I've gone on Disney trips multiple times looking for rides and not Disney villain merch and getting like nothing. So that's what I'm most curious about. It's entirely possible that you might be more interested in the rides. I don't know what the rides are going to be. Theory, I guess, would be that one of the rides is going to be based on Bald Mountain, so like a Chernobog themed thing. But of course, that might be too scary for the kids. We don't know. And then the other thing I thought of as a possibility is in Disneyland. For those of you who've been there or have never been there, there is a ride called the Storybook Land Canal, where basically it takes you through little tiny replicas of like the towns and storybooks from various things. It's based on an idea that Walt Disney had before he came up with Disneyland. It was making miniatures for his train sets. And in Disneyland, you go on these canal boats and you have someone tell you the story of, like, a brief little vignette of the story that you go through. Now, I prefer the Disneyland Paris version, which I've seen on video tons of times, which is absolutely much larger miniatures, including going right into the Cave of Wonders for Aladdin. But my theory is, instead of it being something similar to that, but instead of it being like, oh, well, this will tell you about the villains, this is going to be like, this would be like the villains' dreams of like what would happen if they won. So like, so you obviously you wouldn't have like the heroes be dead or anything, but like you'd have like, you'd see the villains in their glory, you know? Snow White could be in the freaking the coffin for all we know. And but just as an example, like an example could be Hades sitting on Mount Olympus, sipping his drink, while the Titans are wrecking everybody, and Zeus is trapped in that little rock thing of his. That's an example of something. Ursula could have Triton and all of his daughters as those little polyp things at the bottom of her cave. The Gaston could have the beast's pelt on his wall and have all these girls fawning over him. Jafar could basically be what he was doing in that scene in Aladdin before Aladdin got back to Agrabah, and just be lounging about on the throne, watching the Sultan get tortured by Iago. It's just one of the, like, that would be an interesting concept for me, but I don't know what Disney's gonna do, and that's why I'm like, Am I, like, super excited for it? Maybe. But honestly, I'm leaning more towards, If I see it, I see it. If I don't, I don't. Or if I get what I want, I get what I want. If I don't, I don't. So I'm not nitpicky or anything. And I just realized, yeah, this is gonna be the only question we get to talk about in this one, which is kind of funny, but whatever. Let's fight this guy. The villains things there. Those would be my theories of what the rides would be like. But I think they're gonna want more of the villains in there. So we'll just have to figure out what they want. Who the hell knows? But that's it for Magic Kingdom. Epcot really didn't have anything grand and spectacular announced for it. So we're gonna skip Epcot. The Studios is actually getting a couple of different things. The first thing that the Studios is getting is a complete revamp of the area where Muppet Vision is. It's going to become Monsters Inc. Land, which I'm just I'm confused by. I honestly thought that they would want to. I honestly thought that they'd want to connect their two Star Wars attractions, because Star Wars is very split in MGM. I'm just going to call it MGM. I know it's the studios or whatever. I'm just going to call it MGM. You have the Star Wars meet and greets at the launch bay, which is on the animation courtyard where the Little Mermaid show used to be. There's obviously Galaxy's Edge, where Smuggler's Run and Rise of the Resistance are. And then there is, but then there is also Star Tours, which is right by Indiana Jones. So it's like, well, not right by Indiana Jones, but in the general vicinity of where the Indiana Jones show is. So it's like, you have Star Wars littered in 3 different areas of the park. You'd think you'd want to, like, connect the Star Wars things together, but apparently not. Which is why they're doing the Monsters Inc. thing there. Now, some people are, like, losing their shit over this because it means Muppet Vision is closing. And as we all know, that was the last thing that Jim Henson worked on before he died. Rock Blast. Is it more accurate than Rock Throw? It is not. No, thank you. Let me know when you learn Earthquake, Chief. Alright, Drowsy. 0. But yeah, Muppet Vision's gonna be closing. However, they've also announced that Muppet Vision is taking over for Rock and Roller Coaster, which, honestly, makes sense. The Muppets are known for their music, so it makes sense that you'd have like Electric Mayhem take over for Aerosmith there. So yeah, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. My issue again is, if you know me, you know that I'm really not a fan of letting specific, like, properties and movies get their own lands. Like, with Star Wars, Avatar, stuff like that, that was inevitable. It makes sense. There's a lot you can explore, even though so far with Rise of the Resistance, it seemed to just, Galaxy's Edge, they seem to just be exploring the sequel stuff, but what have you. I don't mind. I do mind. I just talked about how much I mind it, but whatever. Yeah, we're just gonna keep going. I think this one might actually be like a half-hour episode, which is funny. But if I have multiple questions, I don't mind continually answering said questions. But whatever. That's the girl that teaches us Thunder Wave. I don't need that. But one of the things that I am, like, skeptical on, as I said, is, like, Toy Story Land. Okay, Toy Story is probably the biggest property the biggest non, like, Disney princess property that Disney themselves / Pixar has made. So it makes sense. Monsters, Inc. is where I'm like, okay, are we gonna move the Laugh Floor and Magic Kingdom there? Or are we gonna maybe you know, like, are we gonna bring the Monsters Inc. ride from Disneyland here? From the concept that they have is they have one of, like, you know how the door vault in Monsters Inc. was like themed like it was like a roller coaster? I think that's what they're planning, and if that is, that's ingenious, because a lot of people have been complaining that Disney needs more thrill rides, which, sure. Monsters Inc. I don't think would have been my choice for that world, or for that space, but if you have to put something there, I mean, I guess I could live with it. Because I don't have a choice in the matter, but it's like one of those where I'm like, okay, I thought we could, like, do something else with that, but since I don't really have, like, an immediate idea for what it would be, I guess we could just move on with our lives. Where I am feeling very skeptical is Animal Kingdom. Now, Animal Kingdom, I will admit, at this point, has long since lost its original message. It is not, I mean, it's still sort of about nature and all that, because obviously Kilimanjaro Safaris is still there. You still get to see the exhibits where the tigers and the lions and the elephants, you can see all those animals still. But a lot of what made Animal Kingdom unique is that it was all about all animals. And I was figuring they were going to continue that if they were to change some rides around. So, like, when Camp Mini Mickey was announced that they were gonna shut that down, nobody really batted an eyelash at it. They're like, oh, okay, so maybe we'll put something else in there. And then they put Pandora in there. And it's like, oh. So we're just IPing everything. And unfortunately for people who don't like Pandora, Pandora is incredibly popular. And because of that, now you've set the trend where, what level is the boulder actually at right now? Once he catches up to Jinx, I'll stop using him. You've now set up that now the original messages of the studio and Animal Kingdom don't matter anymore. Fine. But their decisions for what they're going to do with Dino Land are... I'm going to be nice and say confused. They're going to turn it into a South America thing, which, cool, there's a lot of good animals in South America, but that's the part that's the most perplexing to me, if you will. They're not doing it as, like, you would think they're doing it. They're doing it as you expect Disney to do it. So you're not getting, like, unique South American-based attractions. You're getting Kanto and Indiana Jones mixed into one area. Which, again, I'm like, huh? I don't support that idea in the slightest, but if it's what's good for everybody else, I guess it's okay. That's the one I'm definitely not on board with. But everything else I can live with. I'm not insulted by or not agitated with. It's just one of those where it's like, I hold certain things at Disney to higher standards than others do. I know that for a fact. But yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts on it. Obviously, it's not detracting me from wanting to go to Disney ever again, because obviously I'm still going to go to Disney. I am a card-carrying member of the Disney cult. All hail the mouse. And that's pretty much it. Y'all asked for my thoughts, and I gave you my thoughts. Took me, of course, 20 minutes to get around to that, but there was a lot to discuss in that one. Fortunately, the next few questions for the next episode are going to be a lot, should hopefully be a little less of me rambling. I guess we'll find out the hard way next episode. So thank you guys for joining me. I will see you for the next Throwback Thursday episode. I have no idea what the count is at right now, so it could be in a few hours, or it could be next week. I don't know. Until we meet again, my lovelies, Saya freaking Nara.